So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Larocque. I'm with Incept Data Solutions, and I've got my colleague here, Vivek Patel, also with Incept, and Anurag Singh. Thank you. All right. So the difference is I work inside of Incept Data Solutions. And my friends here, they actually go out and lead projects. We're a services firm, if you've looked us up, and we call ourselves a data governance company, so we do everything data governance from soup to nuts. We do strategy, and then we implement the tools. What we want to talk to you about today is data marketplace. And particularly what we want to talk about is how we're going to think about return on investment with data marketplaces. Is there anybody here that doesn't know what a data marketplace is? No? Awesome. All right. So we're going to go fast on the first few slides. I think there's oh, there it is. I can click that. All right. So a data marketplace, right, very quickly, so we're all on the same page. It's a platform that facilitates interaction with data. All right? Now you'd think that sometimes this is what a data catalog is. True, data catalog sort of does a little bit the same thing. However, the data marketplace, the big difference is that it simplifies the interaction. It makes it easy for consumption. It makes it simple for end users. It improves the customer experience, all right? So what we're seeing right now in the market a lot are organizations wanting to move towards a data product approach. So you might have heard the term data mesh, all right? So that's a very specific way, and a lot of people have been really excited about the concept, but the idea is that you want to push the expertise of coming up with the right data sets and the right data products closer to the business, so closer to people who actually know the data itself. That's the concept. There's a lot more behind it, and this is not the focus of the presentation today, but the idea is that it facilitates the move towards data products, all right? It allows you to publish curated data. Now, it doesn't have to be always curated, but the idea is that you're putting a layer of presentation on top. Now, this is not a layer of presentation like a reporting tool. It's not like that. It really is like a marketplace. If you think when you're going to the market on a Saturday morning, let's say, and there are booths around and so on and so forth, it's a little bit like that. You're going around and you're trying to find something that's useful for you, right? So if you've got a question, you go up to one of the stalls and you ask your questions, and they'll tell you what the price is, and you know, they'll help you out. So it's a little bit like that here. We're trying to help out the data consumer. We'll get into why in a few moments. So some of the terminologies that we deal with are, for example, business data domain, right? The business domain, subdomains. Then you've got data products and data assets. Data assets are really the physical things, right? So if you're going to download, if it's a CSV, if it's access to some tables, access to an area, a database, so on and so forth, that's the data asset, right? And then it's connected to data products, and so that's kind of like the hierarchy. When we're talking about a very specific example related to pharmaceuticals, because we do have quite a bit of experience on that side of things. So that's the the example that we've given here, but this is not specific to the terminology. So data elements, data assets, data products, business domain, delivery target, data templates sometimes, the terms of use and fulfillment. When we're thinking about wanting to use data, right? I think the person right before us, Nathan, was mentioning how it's not that the quality of the data is not good, it's just we don't understand it. That the context, we don't really have the context. So the idea here is that we want to give context to people. When should you use this data? When shouldn't you use this data, right? Is it appropriate for my use case or is it not appropriate? The answer may not be black and white, but at least if you've got a little bit more context on who created this data, who keeps it up to date, why it was used in the first place, who uses it, you're going to have a better sense of whether you could use it for your specific use case. Of course, data marketplaces, just like anything else, it addresses some problems. So what does it address and what doesn't it address? So lack of visibility and access. If you've had experience with data catalogs can be difficult to consume, right? Because they're really mapping data assets. Very often organizations, what they'll do is they'll scan everything and say, here, now it's available. Now people know what's available. That's true, right? We have the internet, so we know what's available, but it's still hard to consume. There's a lot. So somebody's got to do something to kind of simplify it a little bit, you know? So we need our own feed on things. And that's kind of what the data marketplace does. It kind of simplifies so that you get a feed that you can consume and you can digest. Multiple data lakes or organizations build their data environments based on projects and based on budgets. So what does that mean? It becomes kind of a Gruyere cheese, right? Of patchy things. So we've built this data environment. It was for this reason. So it's pretty good for this use case, but if you're going to use it for something else, now we're not too sure. Is it complete, not complete? Will it work? Will it not work? And there's multiple data lakes. So there's something in GCP, something in Azure, something on-prem, and there's a project that's migrating one to another one to the cloud. So we're not too sure what's happening and what can be used and what we can get access to. The inability to promote a data asset. So sometimes you're thinking, we should create this data asset, but you don't know that it exists yet. So perhaps with the data marketplace, you can at least check to see if somebody's done something about this. If anything, you'll find people who are like-minded, and you may be able to get what you need a lot faster than justifying a whole project for it. Disconnected feedback, siloed data access points. I can let you read this. You have access to all this, I think. Yeah. So this was at the company level. Let me see how we're doing with time. Good. This is at the organization level. Now let's look a little bit outside in the real world. What are the trends that are affecting data management, right? Data volume. So there's more and more data. Because we're going to the cloud, we can handle so much more data, so let's collect it. Let's just collect it. We never know if we're going to use it, but let's collect it at least. So data volume is a reality. New users, we're going to talk about data democratization in a moment. A lot more people are getting access to data today. Young people, not like me. Young people today, they know how to code in Python. Even they're coming out with a business degree, they can code in Python already. So They want access to data. They don't want you to curate it for them. They just want access. So there's new types of users out there. So, and you want to give them access, right? Of course, you need to respect privacy laws and all that beautiful stuff. But the point being, that's important. New data types, obviously cloud data. So you can register for subscriptions, right? Of public data that you can combine with your own data to do analysis that you couldn't do before. With Snowflake Marketplace, so that's a marketplace, by the way. With Snowflake Marketplace now you can have access to so much stuff, and it's instant. And obviously machine learning. So we're all doing machine learning now. So it's important. So if you're a data management leader, right, you've got all these trends that are really making your job harder, right? You need to give access faster to new users of new data types. It's in the cloud. There's still stuff on-prem, stuff that's, projects that are going on as we speak, volume, machine learning, but you're being asked to democratize data. Like, it needs to happen now, not in 3 years, now. So that's your challenge. So how do we reconcile that with the trends? The answer is data democratization, right? We want data democratization as much as we can because we want to support a more modern workforce. We want to increase literacy and understanding. Clearly, that's how people will leverage data more if they understand it more. That's going to lead to improved decision making, and it's going to enhance the customer experience. The challenges for the leaders is that, data literacy, it's complicated, right? How do you do that? Are we going to have lunch and learns till the cows come home? How about documentation? Where are we going to put that? How do we do that data literacy? Do we create incentives in their compensation packages so that people have an incentive to actually go and use data? The idea is, let's make it easier for them, right? Let's go and meet people where they live or where they need to do things. Let's let them search for the data they need. And once they see that they want this data, they know who to contact, they know how to get access, and they understand the context. Data trust. In terms of quality, again, coming back to what Nathan was saying, sometimes it's real quality problems, sometimes it's that you don't quite understand. We can include KPIs around data quality, and we can even like or how do we say this? You approve of a curated data set, for example. Like for example, if I'm someone, I can say, listen, I certify this data set, right? We check it all the time because we need it, so this data set is correct. If you see that on a data product, right, it makes you feel better. You can even call the person and say, okay, so you're saying that, how do you use it, and so on and so forth. You get a meeting with the person. But the point being is that all this information was in one place, and you're able to consume it, understand, and basically get on with your work of accessing this data. And then finally, obviously, data privacy. That's never a big positive, but the good thing is that data privacy has pushed organizations in investing in data management, in better data management, and more modern data management tools, including data marketplaces. So it's a good thing in that sense. Obviously, we need to protect people's private data, and that's fair. But because this, when you think of it, data democratization is give more people access to the data. Privacy is really asking you to go the other way. So how do you balance the two? Well, you really have to have really good tools, and you have to do it well so that you can have both objectives filled. At this point, we're going to dive more into the data marketplace and how you can use it for better return on investment. And man, I've got perfect timing. Eh?
As always, Mark.
You have to turn it on.
Can everybody hear me?
It should be red.
Now? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think let's talk about a couple of ways how to do this. And marketplaces, a data marketplace is where it comes together. It's a tool and a platform, but it's more of a concept where you make all of these things happen. So by democratization of data, you don't just open it up to everybody, because there are certain things that you have to follow as an executive, as a company, and you're liable for certain things to make sure that the right data is made accessible to right people at the right time and so forth. But having those guardrails in place may sometimes kind of hold people back in terms of being able to access it, being able to put to use and so forth. How do you make all of this happen in a right way? And marketplace is one of the ways, right? So if you think back on the challenges, how does a marketplace bring all of these together? So how do you improve on literacy? And it's a tool-based approach where more a slew of things come together and make data accessible as a product to your user base, right? And that's how people interact with data. That's how they understand the regular ins and outs of what is happening with their data and how they are participating in the overall process, right? Which is the most important piece, and how you make them part of the process and at the same time accountable for managing and maintaining the data throughout the organization, right? And so you provide tools and resources for having a better understanding of the data, how to basically have interfaces that are friendly, how to kind of access that, and so forth. At the same time, having all these interfaces, you also ensure that the right data is published there and the users who are using them are part of the solution. So it doesn't feel to them that something's just been thrown at them and told that, oh, this is all fine and good, just go ahead and use it. Trust me. Now, that's not how it works. So you make them part of the process. So they should feel involved. And how you do that is basically let them curate the information, have the ability to kind of look at the metrics, dig into the data to see what is going on and so forth. And then lastly, doing all of that and at the same time making sure that there are right levels of security in place for the users, as well as if there are any regulations that the company have to meet, that they are accounted for as well, that we're not doing all of this at the cost of being not compliant to the requirements. This is where the marketplace kind of brings it all together. And so again, the next few slides are going to just talk about how we can make it all happen. These are just to kind of set the stage in terms of what roles, and they could, by the way, so these are some of the roles that you encounter as you deal with data through an organization and through these platforms. This is not to say that these are the only roles that are possible or should an organization should have. But these are some of the things that can help simplify the flows, right? So you obviously have an administrator and a data owner, a technical data owner, which kind of helps out the data owner in terms of the technical operations of the platform and so forth. And then there, of course, there's a data user and an owner and so forth. So we can come back to this slide, but let me just go talk about the process a little bit. How does a marketplace work? So you have all the right intentions, you've cataloged the data, you have done data quality assessments on it, have improved the quality of the data, have published it for the users to see, have right security in place. How does it all come together? This is where a marketplace type setup works the best. It gives you do it by setting up the right workflow and then putting it in hands of your users to basically interact with the tool and the platform and get the data that they need. It all starts, I mean, obviously the flow is kind of listed at the bottom, but it is a very basic e-commerce type transaction, but you're dealing with your data. essentially, right? So you have somebody who is in charge of the data, who has prepared an asset. So by preparation of an asset, it is kind of signifying to the end user that somebody's looked at it, somebody's basically connected the data sources, applied some data quality rules. And so to an extent, this is all looked at by the right people. After which I am able, as a user, able to interact with it. So I can then go in and create, quote unquote, my order, right? What I mean by that is that I've looked at certain things that are published on the marketplace as products. I want to basically use these 3 products for my use. And so I go ahead and create that for myself. And just by doing that, I basically participated in the process of dealing with my own data, looking at it, kind of digging into the actual nitty-gritties of it, and so forth. And then I basically request access from the right data owners. Now this serves a purpose as well. You might think that, oh, now that I've looked at everything, why am I not allowed to just use it? There is a reason here. It does a couple of things. Primary among them is it lets the organization know that this particular curated asset or a data product is being utilized, number 1. Number 2, the data owners are then aware that what sort of information is being utilized by whom within the organization. And that's important because you want to make sure that there are uses that you did not think of come through this. So I may have curated a data set keeping a particular business unit in mind and put it out on the marketplace. But then there is another business unit who is kind of accessing it, which then tells me as an owner that, oh, maybe there are dual purposes to this data set. There is more users in the company that I need to reach out to and so forth. Then there is a simple approval process where I, as a data owner, grant the access. And this approval process can have as many or as little information tied to it. So I can ask many questions as an owner to kind of get to the right intent from the user, or I can ask as little if I've basically done my homework and made sure that, okay, at this point, this particular data set, anybody can use it. So once that is done, that is actually delivered to the user in a desired format. It could be, in certain cases, it could be files that are given out. In certain cases, a copy of it is put on a particular consumption layer where people can access it and so forth. And so what this has ensured is that, number 1, the data in the organization is used by the people in the organization as and when they need it. And number 2, it has a right workflow and framework in place, so nobody goes too far off the reservation or does something that they didn't intend to do and cause more trouble, right? And during all of that, everybody who's involved in this process feels involved in the process. So it's never a arm's length transaction. You're actually involved in this entire process, which makes you accountable through the overall journey, right? And how does this all come together? There are a few, as Mark was talking about earlier, data marketplace doesn't just emanate as a product. So you don't start with data marketplace. It's never just that, right? You just don't throw everything up on the marketplace and expect everybody to participate. You got to do some pre-work, which obviously everybody in this room is aware of, right? Nothing is just one and done. So you basically have to have right governance and a cataloging solution in place. You want to make sure that all of your data is ready for consumption. So even before it hits marketplace, there are certain things that it needs to do in terms of lineage, in terms of scanning, in terms of making it available and so forth. Because it's important to know where things are. After which, during that process and maybe through some other organic processes, you realize that there are certain things that you need to do to your data to make it consumable. So you need to improve its quality and so forth. So you do all of that. Once you have that in place, your data is kind of standardized, the quality is improved, it's ready for consumption. And that's where marketplace comes in. So you can then have these data sets and data assets published as a product on the marketplace, at which point it becomes a enterprise-wide thing, right? And people are able to kind of consume it, do some things with it, and so forth. So this is how you kind of effectively manage and share data. And this truly democratizes it. So it's no longer a technical team's prerogative or a business team's responsibility to manage data. This is now an enterprise-wide thing, which is a framework around it, has a process around it, and so forth. Right? I don't want to talk about kind of these. So these are some of the case studies that we have kind of participated in and make them. This highlights how this can be of use, right? It could be where you've saved hours of work, or it could have basically helped, how people can access data and so forth. So these are some of the examples that we, and I think all of this is, by the way, available as additional material if you can download the deck, right?
Yeah, the deck has a lot of information.
Yep. And I think that brings us to question and answers.
Yes.
If
you
there
have
are
questions, I'm going to walk over.
How do you differentiate between data products and what you showed on that slide before?
Yeah,
this one.
This one? Yeah. So the catalog helps you identify, Anurag will help me here. So the catalog helps you identify the data within your organization. So you know where each of the data sets are. You scan it, create an asset out of it. Now the concept of an asset is you can think of it as if, for example, if you have databases and tables, right? You can combine multiple tables into an asset. Look at all of this, have quality applied to it, make sure the data is usable. And then you publish that data set into a marketplace, which then turns into a product. Now, a product on a marketplace can have multiple such assets within that. So you could have finance data merged with the customer data, with the product data, with the order data, and that becomes your product, right, on the marketplace. Does that answer your question?
Come and see us at our booth. We can talk more. Any other questions?
Any more?
No?
Oh, mine's not, you don't want to publish it. They have the wrong session handout assigned to this session. It's the wrong.
Uh-huh.
I just thought I'd let you know that. You need to get that fixed.
Thank you.
So is this a product that you have in the market now, like Incept?
No, we're a services firm. We've done some implementations, for example, of Informatica data marketplace in the cloud. So a lot of what we're talking about applies to, for example, Informatica, but there are other tools on the market as well that
Can you name some of them?
Cleaver has a marketplace. Informatica will have it. Elation probably has one. Like a lot of the big vendors, IBM has one. The big names in governance will have a data marketplace or a data store capability.
There's a data marketplace capability in Databricks.
Right.
As well.
Right. Snowflake. Metadata works?
Yeah, we have
Metadata works? We're doing advertisements right now. Anything else?
all of the vendors are going to have some kind of solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they will all have a data marketplace. Conceptually, they will all look and feel the same, behave the same. What they will not have is end-to-end automation, and often that's where we come in, where Vivek talked about getting actual access to the data. That's something a marketplace will never do. I don't care which company is making the marketplace, they will just not do it. We can automate, we can create automation that can actually do that for a company. It's important to say that it's done for the company because within the company we have to pick the tool set. It could be access to Snowflake, it could be access to some other technology. We can make that happen.
So much about what you want to do when you're evaluating.
Right.
Use case and say, okay, what is the best thing? All right, we are going to focus on a self-service platform or a self-service paradigm. So, Elation's data catalog might be better for your organization. But if you're looking at, I'm more focused on governance, trying to curate data sets and something like that has, I think, a better business user interface. That might be where you want to differentiate between those marketplaces. So
Yep.
there's a lot to think about.
I think
When you talk about security and the user access management, that's where, most of the out-of-the-box solutions just take for a toss, right? You have federal, PII, how to do the column level, row level, cell level security.
And none
Yeah.
of the stuff out of the box will do that.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like they advertise the capabilities. So like, all right, and Cleaver's an example that I'm very familiar with, so I use that. Like, oh yeah, we have this, the ability to order and do the security, but it doesn't connect to your stuff and use that.
Exactly. You have to bake it in.
So, I think that is what Anurag was talking about. So that is where, so a couple of things, right? The concept of a marketplace emanated from the fact that we did cataloging, we did data quality, but it was still not quote unquote democratized, right? So there was still residing within the purviews of the systems and the technology and so forth. So marketplace, a concept of that emanated from how do we make it simple as a transaction? That I want this, can somebody approve so I can get it and I can do my job? The second part around that is, this is where, what Anurag was talking about, that is where we come in. One of these marketplaces will solve for, it'll solve for the data equations, but never solve for the people side of things for a company. And that's where but all of them allow for automation to happen. And that's where, somebody like Incept would come in and be, for example, we can have these marketplace tied into an organization's Active Directory. So when you are accessing, you don't have to always specify that I am XYZ.
We can
find it
automatically
once over, right?
create a ticketing
Or
service now.
we can connect to your ticketing system and say that the approval process is all outside of the marketplace and in the general company specified tools, so people can do reporting on it and so forth, right? So. Yep. So the question was that is it more geared towards a self-service business user? It is, and the marketplace brings it to fruition, basically, right? So you have catalog, you have quality, all of those still are a step removed from the actual user using it. And the concept of marketplaces actually brings in the user. That, okay, now I have a way to go in and order something that I can actually use in my day-to-day work. I'm sorry.
Just to add to that, like another thing that you can do is you could have you could publish different data products tailored to different users and different use cases. So if you had someone that was coming in to do data science exploration, you could have maybe the basic, customer sales, logistics data out there for them to be able to pick up and use and play with. And you could also have highly curated, very targeted things that you could publish out there that they didn't have. You don't have to know as much about the data. You can just pick it up and use it for you.
It's very similar to, you're buying a basketball, it's going to sell you a net, right? So you can publish some of those things that you're looking for customer data, but have you looked at the recent transactions? Why don't you go look at that too, right? And that sort of a thing. So. Any more questions? I think we are at time.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for the session. Thank you for your attention.